With all the food you inhaled yesterday, we ask you to chew on this Black Friday nugget. As bad as the season has been, the New Orleans Saints haven't lost a football game in 26 days. And they have a chance to do something Sunday in the season Superdome. They can make a clean sweep of their month-long homestand against the formerly hated Los Angeles Rams. Can the Rizma spirit continue? Will there be more presents for little Cindy Lou Houdat and all of our little Houdat friends? Or will the Grinch steal all the fun from the Crescent City? Speaking of the Grinch, did he hide inside the Tulane locker room last night and put a little extra tryptophan in the Green Wave pregame turkey? They sure looked like they sleptwalked against Memphis. And do you believe me now that they wouldn't beat LSU? Are we finally there? Are you there with me? Anyway, I guess it's time to move on. We haven't got to the intro yet. We have plenty to talk about, including the announcement of the winner of the first ever ticket giveaway. So let's get to Thanksgiving dessert, also known as the Dattitude podcast, and it's coming up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there, who filled their camel humps with enough turkey stuffing and pecan pie yesterday to last them until Christmas. Oh, wait. That was me. Sorry. I think if y'all didn't fill your humps up, I ate enough for everybody, as I usually do. But that's what you're supposed to do on Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. We don't discriminate here. Fill up those humps. What do I do here on the day after Thanksgiving? I offer you Dattitude, episode number 315, presented by Evangel Securities for a Friday, November the 29th, 2024, the final show of November. That is hard to believe. I know I probably use the phrase, it's hard to believe, more than any other phrase, besides calling some of you numbnuts here and there. But seriously, it is hard to believe this is the final show of November. We started this march of live shows and retooling the show, using a different format, going live all the time. We did that on March the 1st, and it's hard to believe. I mean, again, it just came out that we've gone through almost an entire year of this, 3/4 of a year. This. If you don't know by now, I'm your host, Jim Derry. 34 years in the New Orleans sports media scene, whether you're watching live or after the fact or listening on demand to the podcast. As always, today, as much as any day, the day after Thanksgiving, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. All right, what's coming up on today's show? We got Larry Holder coming up, as you see on the screen for those of you watching live. Larry has not been on for a couple weeks. We didn't have a Friday show last week, but he will be here today. We're going to preview Saints and the Rams. It is kind of a big game, right? I think you could probably look at this, even though we keep saying 0.0. I know some of you out there you still have hope, and that's great. So I'm not going to completely dismiss your hope. I would call this, if for those of you still believing, I would call it an elimination game. Rams and Saints. Rams are 5-6. Saints are 4-7. If the Saints were to win, both teams would be 5-7. Then obviously the Saints would have an elimination. They would have a tiebreaker up on the Rams. Now, in case they get into some group scenario, we won't worry about all that. For all intents and purposes, we will call this game on Sunday an elimination game. By the way, we had the wrong time up on Wednesday. I thought it was a noon game. I didn't realize that it's actually a late game, a 3-0. That kind of screws everything. I'm not going to complain. Don't get me wrong. I talk about sports for a living. So I'm not complaining when I say this, but it kind of screws up the day. I like to even when I'm in the dome and I'm covering the Saints game, at the same time I got the other games on. So it's going to be weird. You know, what am I going to do? Watch the first quarter of the noon games at home? Or maybe I just leave super early and have the noon game. I don't know. Whatever. A lot of games this weekend, and that's one of the things we're going to do with Larry later on this afternoon or this morning. He's coming on at 11:30. Is we are also going to preview what's left of Week 13 in the NFL. Did you see how Week 13 started? We're going to get to that. Bears going to – y'all like to joke Falcons going to Falcon. Nobody, whatever's their team name to whatever their team name is, like the Chicago Bears. The Bears are going to bear. And nobody bears better than – the Falcons can't falcon like the Bears bear. I'm just saying. I've seen more. I've said this more this year probably than I have in a long, long time. I've seen things this year, at least 8 or 10 things. I'm old. So when I say I haven't seen something before, that's saying something. So when I say I haven't seen a meltdown like the Bears had yesterday, I don't think ever. And I meant to download. I was gonna run the clip, but you all saw it anyway. I ran out of time. Didn't have time to run the clip. You all saw it. It's crazy. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We got a lot of things to get to this morning before Larry gets here, and Larry's coming on in about 22 minutes. So I definitely want to talk to you guys. Also, we're going to talk about the contest giveaway. We have a winner. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Charles Mangus, good morning. Dattitude family. Glad you didn't submit your bid on the game. I would have said 24-14. Didn't expect that close score. Someone did. Gabe did too. I actually bet on the Bears. I told y'all, quit giving so much love to the Lions. If the Bears wouldn't have bared yesterday, they should have won. They didn't win, but they should have. Randall, good morning. Welcome. And my friend John Pace. Good morning, peeps. Who dat? John Pace. We thank John Pace for providing those tickets that we're going to give away in just a moment. I'll tell you about that. Gary, good morning. Adam Varner, top of the morning. Morning to you, of course. Corey, you're getting ahead of us. Corey Terry, I'm going to tell you who wins the game tickets. There were only 2 people that were even kind of close. I got to look and see who the other one was. The winner, I'm just going to tell you this. The winner predicted a score of 27-20. The person who finished in second place, got to go down my list here. Oh, I need to do this without my reading glasses. Where is it? Here it is. The second place finisher, which Corey was you. Sorry. You predicted 28-17. Everyone but the winner, and I mean everyone. We had over a dozen entries. Okay, that's about right when you're first doing this. It's a holiday week. We didn't have as many, and I didn't give enough. I want the next time we have a giveaway, and it won't be too long. I need to give better notice. Okay, I know I gave you notice on Wednesday morning / afternoon. We're doing this contest, and you got to give me your entry by Thursday morning. Next time, I'll give you multiple days notice. So I was happy that we had over a dozen entries, and everyone but the winner predicted. Not only everyone predicted the Lions to win, but everyone but the winner predicted the Lions to not only win but cover. That's when you know you're betting the right side in the Bears. And I guess at halftime you're looking at you like, Lions going to kick some butt. No. UBN's here. Good morning from cold ass. It is cold this morning. Good morning, Jerry. Who dat nation? Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know I did. Let's see. Toker J. Making a Saints. You're making your Saints pick already. We're going to do our Saints predictions. Larry will be on. When Larry comes on, we are going to finish his segment, as we always do, by making our Saints prediction. I will make mine. I didn't have for the first time this year, and actually, I've been doing the NFL picks column for over 10 years. Excuse me. I took 2 years off because I ended up moving around. But this is the first week ever that I didn't do a picks column. I was so busy this week, and it was way down the priority list, and I just didn't do one. So y'all don't know what I'm picking this week. We'll see what's going to happen. You see, Jerry, you see what the Saints went through to get Dennis Allen fired. You told me that I'm not supposed to mention that name anymore, and then you type it in. So what's up with that? You told me don't say that name anymore. And when I say it, I know you cut off, and then you come back and ask me to see if is he still talking about him? No. All right. If you haven't figured it out already, by the way, you can be a part of the show by typing in your comment whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, as much as we love you, if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, we absolutely adore you. But we politely ask you if you would go and subscribe to our YouTube page. That's where the Dattitude family lives, on our YouTube page. It is also how we're going to have future giveaways. Again, our friend and part of the Dattitude family, John Pace, gave these tickets to us to give to you. But our sponsor, and I'm going to get to him in a minute, Nick Braden has told me that he is going to give us tickets in the future for both Saints, and in the spring he has Tulane baseball tickets. And these are going to be, he says he's got sweet tickets to give away. So hopefully we'll do one more in the Saints season. We'll have one more Saints giveaway. I will give you a much better notice. And I don't know how we're going to give them away. Nick's got a pretty good idea that I like. We'll see how we're going to give away the tickets the next time. But anyway, that's coming up. You can also get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email, of course, jderry@theadvocate.com. Okay, contest winner. Corey Terrio, you were second. I don't know if he is watching this morning because I emailed him. He emailed me back yesterday evening, but I have not heard from him this morning. I know John sent him the tickets, but congratulations. And I'm not going to go through all the predictions. And if I didn't, I responded to a few of you. I didn't get a chance to respond to everyone. I thank everyone for being a part of this ticket giveaway. Again, on such short notice. Seriously, thanks to everyone. And I, like Don Hoffman is a regular. He emails me all the time. I think he listens after the fact. Don Hoffman emails me a lot. He entered the contest. He was a little off. He had 35-17 Lions. But anyway, the winner is Roy Steyer. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Roy Steyer. And he goes as Nola Rebel here on YouTube. We see him quite a bit. And I love Roy. I told him the only thing I have against him is he let me know that he is a graduate of he's a former Rummel Raider. And we let him slide on that. We got the Shaw Eagles today. I'm representing. Quarterfinals tonight, VSN. If you're not doing anything, want to check me out on VSN with Jim Rapier. We are doing Shaw and John F. Kennedy in the quarterfinals with the right to go to the semis. I will be on VSN. That is going to be fun tonight. All right. We're going to get to the Bears. We also got to get to Tulane. You know what? I'm just going to bring on Gabe. We never talked about what we were going to talk about today because I was running late. But I'll just bring him on now. We'll talk about whatever comes to mind. We got actually real quick, Gabe, before we get to that, I want to talk about my friends at Evangeline Securities for a minute. This is the part of the show where I introduce you to our title sponsor. Again, that's my friends at Evangeline Securities. We didn't talk at all Wednesday, and I know I talked a little bit about my Thanksgiving, and probably we'll go back to what we did for Thanksgiving because I want to hear what some of you guys did. And ladies, if some of the ladies are watching this morning, about the things we're thankful for. And I really wanted to do that Wednesday. I didn't get into it. Kind of running through. We hadn't had a show in quite a few days. So I got straight to Saints and never got back to it. But look, I hope Nick and Ron don't mind that I'm going to use their first segment to let everyone know how thankful I am for them. This is not smoke. This is legit stuff. When we were looking for a title sponsor, and Nick actually reached out to me, and ever since, it's the relationship between us has been outstanding, and I can't thank him enough, and I can't thank the people at Evangeline enough. Nick Braden is not just the guy who decided that Evangeline would sponsor the show, but he was a listener to the podcast long before we even started the live show that I said started way back in March. In other words, he and Evangeline are much more than title sponsors. Of course, in the second stanza of our Evangeline partnership here at this show, we will tell you how they can help you, any of you who are thinking about selling your family-run or privately held business, and the fact that you need to know how much that business is worth before you can even think about moving forward. But I thought it was important on this entire weekend of thanks that we shower a little love on the ones who help make this show possible. So I offer thanks to my employers here at the Times-Picayune, the Advocate, and NOLA.com. But we could not do this without my friends at Evangeline Securities either. So, and I am proud to say that Nick has become more than a sponsor or a listener. He has also become a friend, and we have regularly chatted since, I'd say over the past 6 to 8 months, we regularly text one another. Sometimes once or twice a week, sometimes a little more, depending on what's going on, the craziness of the Saints. And he's got something he wants to share, and he shares. And sometimes I got something I want to share with him, and I share with him. So anyway, we thank the people at Evangeline, and especially Nick Braden, for so much for what they have done to help us here on this show. And again, ticket sponsorships, ticket giveaways to come, they're going to help us with that. If you would like to check them out before we talk more later about them in the show and how they can help you, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, time to bring on Gabe. We got some comments in the queue as well. We got Dylan Smith. Good morning. Who that's? Jerry says what Chicago did Thursday is not coaching. Let's see. Charles Mangus should have called a timeout. Man, I mean, I don't usually feel bad for teams that just self-destruct, but I couldn't help but kind of feel. How do you run 32 seconds off of a clock with a timeout? First of all, even if you didn't have a timeout, how can you run that much time off the clock without running a play so where you can even at least have a chance? I know if it's an incomplete and then you go for the bomb instead of like throwing like a 6-yard out or whatever, you got sacked, you're running the clock. So if you don't get sacked, you could have just stopped it with like 40 seconds left and kicked it there.
Yeah, every day for the last few weeks I've woken up and I've wondered, how does Doug Peterson still have a job?
Yeah.
But this morning I woke up and thought, how does Matt Eberflus still have a job?
I have no idea.
It is 11:19 a.m. Central Time, the day after, and he is still employed.
Maybe the McCaskies have like it's Thanksgiving and they don't want to like ruin his holiday. I don't know.
The Bears have never fired a coach in season.
Never.
But after
really?
never.
I didn't know that.
Never fired a coach in season, but after what happened yesterday, I don't know how you can't.
Look, man,
I
would just say, Jerry was joking about Dennis Allen, or semi-joking. He wasn't really joking. I know he couldn't wait to get rid of Dennis Allen, but I got to tell you, you can. That's why I say it can always be worse. Okay, the Bears, to me, we talked about. Look, we spent time talking in April and May and June, and even before we knew that we were going to draft Caleb Williams, I made it clear that I thought this was a ridiculous mistake. That you're going to trade your first round pick. You don't get a first pick of the draft very often, and you're going to use it, and you're going to trade capital away or whatever. You could have shored up your offensive line. You could have kept Justin Fields for at least another year or two. There's so much more you could have done with that pick to make your team better. You go draft Caleb Williams, who's not any better than Justin Fields. I said that before. In fact, he might be worse. And then beyond that, you keep the doofus of a coach who had already proved that he's a doofus. I mean, you didn't need this year to show you that he's not a good coach.
Yeah, his defense was the best defense over the last 8 weeks of the season last year.
That was Dennis Allen.
I get it. I get keeping him. And Caleb Williams has been a lot better over the last month. Caleb Williams has actually looked really good over the last month.
I wouldn't say really good. He has looked better. I agree with you that he's looked better. I agree with you that he's looked better, but I think part of it is he was so bad in the first part of the season that he doesn't have to look that much better to look a lot better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, we were kind of dogging on him. He looks like a competent NFL quarterback now. He looks like a dude who's ready to extend plays and play at the NFL level now. At least I think so.
I don't. I mean, I think I've seen glimpses of him that maybe give some hope. And you don't have a choice now. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what any of us think. They've backed themselves in a corner. He's got to be their quarterback for the next, I don't know, at least 3 years, right? I mean, I think they don't have a choice. I mean, they kind of you did this, and but just to this play, it just goes to show. And then he came out afterwards and said, "Well, that's kind of what I was told to do." Look, I don't give a damn what you were told to do. 32 seconds left. You're an NFL quarterback at any level. At some point, you say, "To hell with the bench." I can see that there's 14 seconds on the clock and I'm snapping the football. And if I got to throw it away, I'm throwing it away. So as bad as the coach sucks, I put a lot of it on Caleb Williams' shoulders because you as a quarterback are running this offense. And at some point you got to say to hell with them. And I've seen Derek Carr do this in the past, not so much this year, but with the clipboard holder. At sometimes he just says, to hell with you. I'm just going to run the play.
Yeah. Caleb Williams definitely isn't blameless for what happened. But you can't blame a rookie for being kind of overwhelmed. I'm not blaming him,
but I know. He shares in it. You know.
He absolutely does.
Eberflus is the number one.
Yeah. I mean, as a head coach, how you can sit there with the timeout in your pocket and just, I mean, what was he doing for those 30 seconds?
Well, he couldn't, and Jerry, he couldn't spike the ball. I believe it was third.
No.
It was third down.
The last play was run on third down.
So you can't.
And they were on the brink of field goal range.
So. Exactly. You had a timeout. There was absolutely no reason to not go run a play. And if you can't get the 5
can't get out of bounds, you have 30 seconds to run your field goal team on.
Yeah, and you still can throw it across the middle because you have that timeout left. So I mean, it just so many things didn't make sense. All right, I'm going to talk more about this with Larry later, but and Larry's coming on in 7 minutes, so I do want to spend at least 5 minutes of the show talking about Tulane last night. And look, I am not giving my Tulane friends grief right now when I say this. I'm being completely realistic. I texted Garland last night and he never texted me back. So I'm just saying. Any talk, okay? You and I have both caught grief about this. Not a ton, but I think people realize when you talk about Tulane, they're not in the same class.
No.
They're not in a Power 4 class. They're just not. Now, could they compete in the ACC? Maybe in the middle of the pack. They're not going to beat Clemson. They're not going to beat Miami. I mean, I don't even think they would beat Georgia Tech, in my opinion. They might play in a bowl game. Who knows? But I think last night proved what we've been saying is if Tulane played in the SEC, I honestly believe the only team they would beat, and I don't think it would be a blowout, is Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. And people were still, I mean, there were people on social media doubling down yesterday. Oh, they'd still beat LSU. Okay. Name a signature win that Tulane has this. I know Tulane's been good this season. I've gone as far as to call them one of the best teams in the group of 5. Name one signature win that they have.
They don't have any.
They don't have any signature wins, Jim. No, they don't have any wins.
And if you don't believe me, okay, if you don't, you might not be a fan of Tulane or whatever. I'm going to tell you their wins this season. Okay, they started out the season rolling over Southeast Louisiana. Big deal. Okay. They lose by a touchdown to Kansas State. Should they have won the game? Yeah. Did they get screwed over? Yeah, they probably did. Doesn't mean it. Kansas State is a middle of the pack. Now it's turning out to be maybe slightly above middle of the pack Big 12 team. But then they lose by 15 to Oklahoma. And there's no question that Oklahoma is one of the 4 worst teams in the SEC, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They barely skate by Ooh La La, who's okay. I mean, but they barely skate by, and then they go on a roll, and they beat the heck out of South Florida, roll over UAB, beat Rice by a couple touchdowns. They need help at the end to get past North Texas. They roll over Charlotte, they roll over Temple, and they roll over a reeling Navy team before getting beat last night. And
three of those teams in that little stretch that you mentioned have already fired their coach. Or actually, no, 2. Sorry. Trent Dilfer is going to be fired at the end of the year. So 3.
Poor Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer's horrible.
won a Super Bowl.
He did not win that Super Bowl.
I bet you he would not have done what they did with the Bears last night. Just saying. He wouldn't have been a Bear. He wouldn't have bared. But look, the point is, and you and I are on the same page with this, I think if Tulane plays Memphis 10 times, they probably win 7 times. And that was just, they kind of slept walk through the performance. Are they a better team than Memphis? I still think they are probably a better team than Memphis in the grand scheme of things. But they didn't come to play last night, and they couldn't stop a running back I never heard of and probably never will hear of again.
Well, let's not forget Memphis stopped them on the ground.
That's also
Mekhi Hughes is horrible.
Yeah, he really was. It's kind of a shame because, look, I've been giving Mekhi Hughes a lot of love, and I still do.
His under was the easiest prop bet of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't bet it but you talked about it, and we both talked about it on the show. The one reason why I think we both thought Tulane would win, but we were both very high. It might have been one of my best bets had we had a bets week. I loved Memphis plus 13.5 last night. Again, I'm going to be straight up. I'll be transparent. I thought Tulane was going to win the ball game, but I didn't think they would win by 2 touchdowns because I thought people were underrating Memphis. And you and I had both talked about how Memphis's run defense was not only 3rd in the AAC, but I think you said 18th in the country.
18th in the country, yeah. And they shut down one of the nation's best running backs yesterday.
Yeah,
that proved to be key. So I just think, yesterday showed us all that Tulane can't really hang with the big boys.
Memphis is a big boy.
No, Memphis is a solid AAC team. They've been really solid over the last few years. Yeah, but over the last decade, they've been a really solid team, really solid program.
They always are. And Tulane always struggles with Memphis, even when they win. They struggle with Memphis, so it's not like it's a surprise. So, but now here's the thing. Here's what Tulane has done to themselves. Okay, they've backed themselves into a corner. They need to hope that Army loses to UTSA on Saturday. If Army beats Texas San Antonio, which is, I think they're like mid-level. They're just. I didn't look at their record.
UTSA has just been okay.
Yeah, they haven't been as good as they've been the past few years. But anyway, Tulane needs Army to lose. Otherwise, they got to go to West Point and play up there for the AAC championship game, and it's a huge difference, especially this time of year when we're talking about weather. So Tulane could have been at home, and now they probably have to go on the road and play Army in the AAC title game.
Not only that, we talked about the other day how the rankings had positioned the Big 12 winner to kind of jump them, and therefore any college football playoff talk was just obsolete. But now, I mean, it's there no chance.
It was preposterous.
0 chance. Yeah. I mean, just no chance it's going to happen.
Well, we'll talk more about them on Monday or at least Wednesday when we get there later in the week. I know Charles is saying he thinks Army will beat him. I don't. I think Tulane will win either way. I think Tulane will win either way. I mean, they played a very similar team in Navy.
It was fun pretending like the service academies were really good this year, and they have been really good. Army's been very good. Definitely the better of the two, but I don't think they'll beat Tulane.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. And then lastly, real quick, because Larry's waiting in the green room, but we kind of gave our predictions Wednesday on LSU Oklahoma, and I think we're both in agreement that not only do we think LSU wins this game, I think we both think Oklahoma, and I'm not sure why they're only getting 6 here. To me, this spread should be more like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think LSU does win this game. I think they go out with a point to prove, and I don't think Oklahoma is going to be as good as they were last week. I think last week was the first time all season that we've seen Oklahoma have any sort of fight. Other than that, they've just looked flat. Their offenses looked flat. I just don't see it happening. Jackson Arnold, if you want something to bet, Jackson Arnold's rushing prop is up to 64.5 because he ran for 131 last week. He's only gone over that total twice this year. So
there you go. All right,
fun little prop.
So you think LSU covers or no? I know it's not something you're going to bet
if I had to choose, yes, I would say they do.
I'm giving you 10 fake bucks. You got to bet them. You betting on LSU?
I'm betting on LSU, and then I'm sprinkling some of that on player props. I like Josh Williams anytime touchdown scorer, actually.
I think LSU wins
on senior day.
So. I think LSU actually scores a decent amount of points. I think it's over. Under is kind of low. I don't give that number. I think that's kind of low. But anyway, we will see you on Monday, my friend, as we get back to our regular schedule here.
Sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody. As we move on, talk some Saints here. Again, look, LSU. I just think that I know that they have obviously struggled, and I think they came out of their shell a bit against Vanderbilt. But I got to be honest, I don't think Oklahoma is any better than Vandy. And in fact, maybe they're not as good as Vandy. So I don't get that spread at all. I think that spread should be more like 10 points. So I think LSU is going to play well. I think they're going to finish strong, and we'll see. We'll see. Breaking news this morning. Perfect time for this. Before I give the breaking news, I'll bring on our friend Larry Holder. Good morning to you, sir. I'll ask you about your Thanksgiving in just a moment. We got breaking news here on the Dattitude podcast. Matt Eberflus has been fired, and I'm sure you're shocked.
I was waiting to break it. Come on.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Even though it broke a few minutes ago. But yes.
Well, we were yapping our heads.
That was probably the least shocking news of the day.
You can't survive what he did yesterday. You just can't. And I know you and I we probably both said this throughout times in our career. I'm like, I have never seen, whenever what I have never seen usually follows something that you really have seen. But I have never seen a team that is trailing by a field goal with a timeout in their back pockets somehow waste 32 seconds and then throw the deep pass instead of throwing something short to where they can kill the clock again.
It reminds me of when Les Miles basically got lucky. That was back in 2007. Remember when Matt Flynn throws a touchdown pass? It's against Auburn, and it scores with like 1 second left.
Right.
Like if the clock ticks off, that ball's not caught, you lose, and everybody's like, "What a moron!" But people don't remember it that way.
If he caught it, it wouldn't have mattered either because the clock still would have run out. He wouldn't have scored a touchdown. He'd have gone out of bounds.
Right. So yeah. But it's certainly something that I think everybody saw coming, and I think the bonehead call yesterday just made that thing speed up, even though everybody knew it was coming. That Memphis was going to be out.
I'm just going to say, as bad as some silly as some of the things he did, Dennis Allen never did anything like that. That was like way beyond Dennis. Dennis Allen wouldn't have even done that. I'm just saying. So, anyway.
Well, no, because everyone was like, Dennis Allen's super conservative. So they would have kicked a field goal with like a minute 30 left.
Right. You probably that'd have been 5 less plays that they run. All right. My friend Dominic Carolla, who's a huge Bears fan, is from Chicago, says, Vrabel to the Bears. He wants it now. Best Christmas ever to Bears fan. Well, the bad news for you, Dom, is that Thomas Brown, according to Gabe, is getting the biggest promotion ever. He was promoted to OC a few weeks ago, and now is the interim head coach. I don't know who Thomas Brown is, but okay.
I was about to say that was definitely he's moving up the ranks, man. He'll own the team by the end of the year.
Let him have it. How was your Thanksgiving, sir?
Oh, it was good.
I was expecting to see you in the car this morning.
Oh, well, yes, I actually made it to your neck of the woods and back in time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was good. I will say that I was about to wear my Pelicans hat that I acquired Wednesday night from the game, but it was the only thing worth going to the game. That was maybe the worst game I've ever seen. Outside of the only thing comparable that we were talking about, we had a big group of us go, and everyone was talking about the 60-something point loss in the playoffs a bunch of years ago. That was how bad it felt that team was playing that night.
I had a email yesterday about someone who wanted me to talk about the Pelicans. It said, you haven't been talking about the Pelicans. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but the Pelicans are too far down my list to give them time to talk about it. And here we are talking about them. But I mean, they're
because of the hat. It's because of the hat.
Well, it's because of that. Oh, of course. I mean, you get a hat, then we're going to talk about it. That's worth talking about. The hat is more interesting than the basketball team.
I mean, I can go get it. I put it on. It's beautiful.
I mean, if you want to, you can. It's okay. But I mean, I don't know that I've seen a team be a double-digit underdog in this many games in a row. I'm not saying this one. I'm not saying I've never seen, because I'm sure I have. But the fact that they're double-digit underdogs again and they're getting healthier, they got DeJounte Murray back. They're still double-digit underdogs. They played like they didn't give a damn the other night. Now they're going to Memphis where they're 10-point underdogs. Memphis isn't playing well either. I just don't get it, man.
Well, look at the roster, and it's a bunch of guys who shouldn't be in the NBA.
It's a mess. It's a mess. And look, I've been a proponent of Willie Green for a while, and I still am, but he's losing me, man. And I get all the injuries, that it's not his fault, but at some point, even if you have injuries, and I said the same thing about Dennis Allen, even if you have injuries, you've got to play better. You got to play with heart, and this team's not playing with heart right now. So got to figure it out. You got to figure it out soon. All right, New Orleans Saints time. This is how we're going to roll here. We're going to give our Saints Rams preview. We're going to go through the 3 games you see on the right. There's actually a 4th game that I kind of want to mention, but and I'll ask Larry what he thinks of those 3 games, and then we'll end this segment with our Saints predictions, and that's when we'll ask you what you think about the Saints and Rams. But let's start off not necessarily about what we think, Larry, but this Saints team is living on a high. And I know you didn't hear the intro of the show, but it's been 26 days since the Saints have lost a football game. That seems like an eternity with this team.
Considering they were doing it every 6th day for a long time. Yeah, exactly. And it's something that I wonder the psyche of Saints fan, because they're playing better, and yet what good does it do? Because all you got to do is go look at our playoff predictor right now, projection, and we're dumb and dumber with the Saints. We're saying they 4%? Have a chance. 3% chance.
3, it was 4%. Now it's 3. Okay.
Yes, 3% chance of doing, and then they have
about 3 higher than you think.
Yeah, they have a 47% chance of winning Sunday. So
okay,
it goes along basically kind of with the spread and such. So 47% chance.
Well, they really have a 47% chance to win Sunday. Then you're getting value from this money line. I'm not trying to give a spoiler alert, but I think that's kind of high. But if they really are 47% at plus 124, you'd be getting a value. It's not that you're in that betting sort of thing, but
hey, look, the projections are what they are. What do you want me to say? They all go hand in hand.
How right are they? Do you guys show what you're? I mean, it's hard, I guess, to show records, but I don't know. How right are those things?
That I don't know. I know it's. I think we do 100,000 simulations.
Well, I'm a subscriber to The Athletic. I may go look at least past few weeks and see how close they've been and see how they've been. All right. Well, if you do believe, and I said this in the opening as well, if you do believe, if you're one of these, the glass is 3/4 full kind of people, maybe 5/6 full, and you think the Saints still have a chance, then there's no question that this game on Sunday is an elimination game of sorts, because the Rams are 1 game ahead of the Saints at 5-6, Saints 4-7. So whoever the winner of this game is, the Saints win, they would be 5-7 along with the Rams, and then would have the tiebreaker on the Rams. Meanwhile, the Rams are trying to get back to 6-6, and I think they have, I wouldn't say legitimate chance, but to me, they have probably 15-20% chance to make the playoffs. Let's put it somewhere around there, although they're in a mediocre division. I don't know. It just seems like this is truly if the loser of this game, their chances are definitely 0.
I would say more for the Saints, yes. That it would be 0. But I think that's a fair assessment. And you look at the Rams, like you said, their division is really cluttered. Look, the way Atlanta's been playing lately, and Tampa seems like they're getting their act together, and the Saints are getting their act together. So right. it could certainly get cloudy within those 3 teams. And so that's the thing. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm actually intrigued to say, all right, maybe the Saints can pull something together, because look, here's the thing. They're not quitting. That's apparent.
For sure.
So you might as well say, hey, let's see what we can do with this season and move forward. And so, it's not, you're not just playing out the string. It feels like that this team is playing to win. And if you're invested and you have season tickets and you go to the games, I mean, you still want to see a product that's not terrible. And I think that's a good thing as we are right now, given everything that's happened surrounding this season so far.
And we have a regular that's got 2 comments that I'll show both of them. It's really kind of one long comment. But Nathaniel Sherman says, next season I would move Alvin Kamara. First of all, I don't necessarily think they're going to do that. I don't think they would have signed him to a 2-year contract if they were going to move him. But anyway, find a younger running back. You're probably tired of me saying Trevor Penning is getting better every week. I agree that he's getting better, but he's still not good. Somebody can get better and go from atrocious to horrible, if that makes any sense. And then he says, emotion will only take you so far. At some point, you need talent and coaching. The Saints have neither. I don't necessarily agree with this team doesn't have talent, Larry. I mean, do they have great talent? No. But I think they're banged up. Obviously, wide receivers are banged up there, and their O-line is not good. But I think you could find talent in the backfield. They obviously can score points at times. We've seen this over-under. Las Vegas thinks there's going to be 50 points scored in this game. That's a lot. So we've seen the defense at times. The linebacker core, I think, is good, not great. Obviously, injuries in the defensive backfield is hurt, but I think overall, this team has talent. Again, just not enough talent to make a deep run.
I wouldn't necessarily say the Saints have bad coaching. Darren Rizzi, we don't know how he is as a head coach right now. He's 2-0. And if he's not retained from the staff, if they hire a new head coach, he will be hired immediately. Like teams will fire their special teams coaches to hire him.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Like he's the cream of the crop in terms of that position group. So that, regardless, they're going to have.
I think they have other issues though across the entire staff, but I don't disagree with you at all. If the Saints do hire another coach, and I'm assuming that they will, but I really would like to see them find a way to keep Rizzi.
I doubt that happens.
I do too. I doubt that it happens as well.
I seriously doubt that happens. But to me, it's more talent wise. I mean, I get it. Like you have talent some places, but you're talented enough to what? Like I said, you're talented enough to be what we thought the ceiling would be, 10 wins, and obviously that's not happening if everybody was there. So yeah, this team, they're at best, in my mind, talent wise, mediocre. Like they're middle of the road at best.
Yeah, no, and I agree. That's kind of where I think they are. But to me, that doesn't say you don't have talent.
Right.
I don't know. Look, you touched on it with Rizzi, and I'm just going to say this. And I know there are a lot of people that are backing Rizzi, and I've been on shows, and I think even some of the hosts that I've talking to, they love them some Darren Rizzi. But it's only 2 games, and I'm going to say this again. I know I say this every show, but I say it for a reason, so that you don't get your hopes up that Darren Rizzi is like the future of this franchise. I'm not knocking Darren Rizzi. I agree with Larry that I think people will be knocking down his door for them to come coach for them if he's not retained here. But the Saints are not smarter than a 5th grader, just like they weren't with Spencer Rattler. It's the same with Darren Rizzi. There has been 0, count them 0. It's not hard to count to 0 interim coaches in this century that have gone on to become a head coach for the team that made them an interim coach and have been successful. There have been, I believe, 13 that have gone on to get the job. None of them have been successful long-term more than a few weeks. And I don't think Darren Rizzi is any different.
I think it's hard to say that at this point, given we've only seen 2 games. But I just know that public sentiment would be against it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And
I don't know what if he goes like, what if he wins? I don't know. So there's 6 games left. He's already won 2. Let's say he goes 4-2 the rest of the way and finishes 6-2. You really think the public would be against him? I think they would. I think they'd be for him.
As we've seen, to me enough, anything having to do with the previous thought process, people are against. Like I think it's unreasonable. I'm not saying my thought process there, but I do think, though, that here's what Darren Rizzi would have to do. I think Darren Rizzi, if he were hired full-time, he would have to get his own guys. Like,
Oh, for sure.
you're not, maybe Clint Kubiak sticks, but you want your own guys. You're not.
Yeah, I
gonna
think the
retain
entire
this.
defensive staff would be gone.
So yeah, there would be flux everywhere. So why wouldn't you have someone? And I don't think Darren Rizzi is at the point right now thinking, let me assemble a staff. Like he's, other assistant coaches who are interviewing for jobs have people that they have their short list of people they want to bring with them.
Right.
And I don't know if Darren Rizzi's in that mindset. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But still, I think the Saints would benefit from a fresh perspective. I think a lot of people would think the same way. I'm not saying that Darren Rizzi wouldn't be a good choice, but I just think that I know the Saints are going to give themselves that opportunity. And yet, I think it's a tough sell. I just think it's a tough sell because, and part of what you're saying, what interim coach has ever taken over for a fired guy and all of a sudden,
we see right now. I mean, Antonio Daniels, he kind of turned the mentality of the Raiders around briefly. And so let's keep him. Let's give him a chance. And look, I get that he doesn't have a quarterback, so I'm not putting it all on the shoulders of Antonio Daniels, but
Antonio Pierce.
I mean, Antonio Pierce, sorry. I think I said that.
That'd be a tough sell, too.
Antonio Daniels, the announcer for the Pelicans, the color analyst for the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did. But anyway, you see that Antonio Pierce it's been the same thing. And now he comes back again. He doesn't have a quarterback. The Raiders just stink, period. But I'm not sure why they decided that was the right thing to do to stick with him at that time. But
they were righting the wrong they did last time. They had Rich Bisaccia. People wanted him. They let him go.
Derek Carr wanted him.
McDaniels, and he gets fired and was bad and was nothing's ever really good there. But they were trying to right that wrong. That's not the way you need to do things.
Yeah, Derek Carr brings up Rick Bisaccia often. Yeah. Actually, still does. All right, Brian. Thank you for the nice email, Brian. By the way, happy Thanksgiving to you. Turkey, everything was delicious. They have talent at good number of positions, but they do lack depth across the board. I agree. Randall says we need an experienced head coach to rebuild this roster and draft and develop a quarterback. I don't want to sound. This is going to sound silly. I don't necessarily.
Derek Carr, come on.
No. It's not about Derek Carr. It's not about quarterback at all. It's nothing about a quarterback. I think that this team, and I've said this before, I think they need a coach that's not experienced necessarily. And when I say not experienced, I mean in the head coaching department. I want either up and coming coordinator or someone's going to bring fire to this team. When you say experienced coach, I think of someone like Bill Belichick or something like that. This team needs youth. This team needs somebody who is ready to take the next step, and somebody like Darren Rizzi, but someone who is ready for that next step. I don't necessarily think Darren Rizzi is ready for that next step. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts?
Sean Payton.
Yes, exactly.
Sean Payton wasn't Sean Payton when he came here.
Correct. And see
what it is.
He wants Randall Cliff, and I know you've said this before. Cliff Kingsbury's a retread. I don't want any more retreads. No more retreads, especially retreads that haven't been successful. If the Saints are gonna get a retread, this name was mentioned earlier. The only retread I can think of offhand that I would be interested in for coaching this team is somebody like Mike Vrabel. Other than that, I don't want someone who was shit as a coach. I'm sorry, that's the only way I can think of to put it. I mean, and that's what Cliff Kingsbury was. So I just don't want somebody like that. I don't know. So Coach Prime, no. Definitely not. That would be a circus. And the last time the Saints had a circus was Mike Ditka. Well, that didn't work out very well. But I'm completely on your side, Larry. I agree. And it's hard to get someone like a Sean Payton. I get that. Sean Paytons don't grow on trees. But someone who's ready to be like that. They're not going to get Ben Johnson. So, who is on your periphery? Who do you think could be? No, Bobby Slowick. Stop it, Gabe Anderson. Not Bobby Slowick either. But who is on your radar of someone who could be ready to take that next step?
I said it immediately, and people don't like it, and that's okay. I thought Aaron Glenn. So that's
okay.
I just think that he's someone who, again, I know people are going to disagree with me. I get it. But I see him commanding respect of a locker room similarly to what Dan Campbell does. I don't feel that from Ben Johnson. So for me, for this spot of someone who is attainable, I agree that I don't think Ben Johnson is attainable, but I like what Aaron Glenn would bring here. And oh, by the way, he's seen fun scheme, things like that offensively, like of what he would like to see. So I don't think he would bring someone stale offensively because he's like, look, if Detroit can do it, why can't other teams do it? Like, so I think he has a sense of that too. Like, he's not just some defensive minded guy. So and he's not a former head coach. He's not a retread, but of course it's he was with the Saints. He was bad. Oh, he was only with the Saints when they were great. Like, why is that a problem? I don't understand why that's a problem. I don't understand it.
I'm not strongly against it. The only reason why I'm not a fan of Aaron Glenn is because he is kind of under the Sean Payton coaching tree, and I don't want anything
that's exactly what I just said. Why is that a problem?
But here's why it's a problem. I don't want anything that's ever had anything to do with this organization.
Oh,
I'm not necessarily
that's part of the problem.
But here, this is also part of the problem, even though I don't agree with the way that Randall presents this. Randall presents this as, how many times do we need to see a defensive-minded head coach doesn't win in football anymore? That's complete BS. Okay, that is definitely not true. DeMeco Ryans
in the history of the league is Bill Belichick, and he's a defensive coach.
Well, I mean, I'll say just right now, a young guy, DeMeco Ryans, is a defensive head coach who completely changed the Texans around in a very short period of time. We could go down the line. You could talk about Harbaugh's if you want and stuff like that. Even though they're offensive guys, they're very defensive minded.
Still got their record is still good, and their offense is still sluggish.
Correct.
And yet they still have pieces, but still, like, that's like also they.
You said lately. He said lately. DeMeco Ryan just became a head coach last year. How lately? You went yesterday? Did someone become a head? What about this guy who just took over for the Bears? You want somebody like that? Come on, man. Stop it.
See, you and me. You said I want no one to do with the Saints. That's why I'm like, why?
I think I need some tryptophan or something. I don't know what I need. The show's going. All right. Let's turn
Obviously,
back.
like you say, you and me don't agree on everything. This is another case in point.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm not saying look. I want to see who the candidates are. First off, we talk about this stuff when Rizzi's in game 2. If I'm just saying this, if he does go 6-2 down the stretch and he goes 4-2 the rest of the way, not only are the Saints going to 100% give him a real chance to win the job?
Yes.
But I think he's the favorite. If he does that, I'm not saying he's going to do that, but if he goes 6-2, he's going to be the favorite in the offseason.
It's hard to ignore, given the roster you have. Like, the roster's not great. It's okay.
And they're going to be crappy. So somebody's going to put it this way, whoever gets this job next, I don't necessarily give them an excellent chance to stay here for a long time. Because if they stink, they're going to get fired. And if they don't stink, somebody else is going to want them, and they'll probably go.
Well, you're not going to do that. No.
Just because Sean Payton didn't leave.
He was there for 16 years.
What happened there?
Where did I go?
I don't know. Where did you go? How did that happen?
I'm here. I never left.
Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing.
Oh, you see, you're Xing me out. You're like, nope. Xing me out. No on Aaron
Glenn sucks.
You literally gave me the hook.
I really did. I did.
That
was accident. Look, I want to go back to Rams. Look, I know I don't want to run too long this morning. I want to go back to the Rams because young people don't realize this probably because it's been 23 years since the Saints and Rams were in the same division. But the Saints have played the Rams. After this game is played, they will have played the Rams as much as any other team except the Atlanta Falcons. That's kind of hard to believe, right? This will be the 78th meeting between the Saints and the Rams. The Saints are 34-43 all time against the Los Angeles Rams. Their first game ever was against the Los Angeles Rams. And here we go again. But this used to be one of the things I know growing up as a kid. I hate those damn horn helmets because they used to beat the crap out of the Saints, and I hated. I knew when we played them, probably going to lose.
Well, the two distinct memories I have are Flipper Anderson,
Flipper.
and then
Flipper with his 300 and something yards or whatever it was.
but also Brian Milne. Hakeem drops
Brian
the ball.
Milne.
Hakeem drops the
Probably
ball.
go back into obscurity where he came from. That's right. Hakeem dropped the ball.
So it's a bad memory and a good memory. And then, of course, the Rams, the NFC Championship game, not good memory there. They weren't in the division there.
We have a lot of and then if you want to go back in history even further, you were super young when this happened, but Mike Lansford and that barefooted bastard knocked the Saints out of the chance to go to the playoffs back in 1983, if memory serves me correctly. The Saints would have gone to the playoffs for the first time in their history and had a winning season for the first time in their history. But no, Mike Lansford, and yes, they used to have barefooted kickers that would go out there and kick barefooted. And he did that on the dome turf. It was like a 45-yarder or whatever, which back then was about the equivalent of like a 52-yarder, and drilled it, and the Saints were out of the playoffs. So there have been a lot of special games between these two. I don't necessarily put this one up there with the special games, but it is a big game of sorts if you're talking about Saints and trying to keep their momentum going.
Well, absolutely. Like you mentioned it earlier, this is an eliminator. This is a playoff eliminator. And again, the Saints' chances currently are minimal, like 3% according to our playoff predictor. But I think both teams have something to play for. I mean, look, the Rams are still within that division. They're still fighting for it. The Saints have clawed their way back, and the division has not ran away from them. So they're in this. And like I said, the Saints, they are not laying down. Like, they are playing hard. And I think that's something that the way this season has gone, the fact that they're at least having this opportunity, I feel like has to be something to look forward to. And so I'm curious to see how this works in terms of matchups and things like that, because all I know is last week we saw Saquon Barkley pull a Flipper Anderson and rush for 255 yards against them. And what's the Saints' strengths right now? Kamara, Taysom Hill. If they can do that against a Rams defense that is susceptible to that, then the Saints can certainly win this game.
And I know you didn't see our front page today, but our topic of the day and question of the day, is this an AK kind of day? And I asked that for exactly what you were talking about. And if you look at the numbers here, and for those of you who can't see, if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, but we have our rankings here on the side of the screen. And Larry, the Saints are 9th in rushing offense. They have been steadily moving up the past few weeks, but 9th in rushing offense. The Rams are 28th against the run. So obviously, if you're looking for an advantage the Saints have, that's where it is. And I do think, of course, because I'm playing him in fantasy football this week. And the last time I played him earlier in the year, he went off. So I'm sure he's going to go off again. And so I'm kind of trying to do the jinx thing, but I don't think it's going to work, because I do think Alvin Kamara is going to have a big day this week.
It certainly would be a day to look for either him or Taysom to have a big day. I mean, you need that. And it's funny because the Rams, they're one of the better pass pressure teams, but they don't play well against the run. So it's one or the other. I mean, you basically, if you can't run against them, your run game stinks. And I don't think the Saints' run game stinks. So I think that's certainly, and they know this going into the game. So they're going to certainly try to implement that. Just don't make mistakes. Like, don't outthink yourself. I mean, if the run works, do it. And if you need to just rotate those two guys, do it. But there's no harm in doing that.
Yeah, and we'll see how the offensive line is going to shake out. Apathy mentioned in the comments a little while ago that Eric McCoy is still banged up. I mean, look, he's a veteran. They don't need to practice him until today. So today is the day that you look and see if he's going to practice today or not. But obviously that is a key for the Saints. So if he doesn't play, that is a huge deal this weekend. But then if you're looking on the other side, we talked about the Saints where they have an advantage. And this is why I can't believe I'm saying this, that I like an over in a Rams Saints game of that high. I can't remember the last time the Saints went into a game with an over of 49.5, but I think there are going to be a lot of points in this score in this game, because I do think the Saints will be able to score. But if you look, the Rams have the same kind of advantage in their passing offense against the Saints passing defense. The Saints have not been able to get enough pressure in most of their games. They did against Cleveland, and they did get some pressure on Jameis, although he threw for like 370 yards. But the Rams have the 9th best passing offense in the league, and that's with like 3 or 4 weeks where they had an injured Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua was hurt, and now they're both back. I think the Rams are a top 5 passing offense. They're going against the 3rd worst passing defense in the NFL.
Oh, I definitely think the Rams with their skill position players healthier, with Nacua and Kupp, and Stafford is a different guy when they're in there. I mean,
right.
The numbers say it. It's there. It's obvious. And with the Saints secondary not what it was, and the Saints pass rush not being great, everything you just said, I feel like can lead to a high scoring game. And I think you see the over under. I mean, Vegas sees what you're seeing too. And so it's definitely something that maybe the Saints might feel comfortable with the lead. All of a sudden, boom, one shot, and then all of a sudden they're back in the game. I mean, that's, this isn't – and last week, the way the Rams played, the Eagles defense, I mean, have they come back to life? My gosh.
Right.
They're one of the, if not the best defense in the NFL right now, which is dangerous because they're one of the best offenses in the NFL. They're, instead of going down at this point of the season, the Eagles, like they were last year, the Eagles are now ascending, and that's thanks to the MVP of the league, Saquon Barkley. I'm saying right now, he should be the MVP. But
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but yeah, like just because the Rams, they didn't play super well last week doesn't mean they can't go and put up points against the Saints defense that is not playing like they should be playing.
Yeah, I actually think this is going to be a really fun game. I mean, I think it's going to be I think the winning team's going to be in the 30s. In fact, both teams may be in the 30s. Who knows? This was kind of a fun game. I know the Rams jumped out to a big lead last year, but Carr brought the Saints back. And I think this is one of those games that I point to where it was kind of one of those games where he said, be quiet, Pete Carmichael, take your little pencil that you use for your clipboard and go sit somewhere. I got this. And when he took over, the Saints actually started playing a lot better, and he kind of did things on his own, ended up throwing for 3 touchdown passes. Couldn't get the Saints all the way back, but if the Saints have a good game plan, I just think this is going to kind of be a back and forth kind of game.
Oh, I agree. I'm totally with you. It'll be a fun one to watch, but yeah, it will be. I mean, look, it's a toss-up game. I mean, it really is.
All right, we'll give our prediction on this. This is the way we're going to end the segment, but I want to give 30 seconds or so to the 3 best games. I think the best games of the week of week 13. They're all on Sunday. And we got some really interesting games this weekend. We had, I guess, at least one yesterday. That was kind of interesting. The Green Bay game, okay, whatever. But the Steelers at the Bengals, I find this line super strange, okay? And it's a reason why I like Cincinnati. I don't think it would be in my best bets, but Cincinnati, and I'm usually one of those guys that once I think that you have that dream crusher game that you're going to play terrible and you're pretty much done. But I think the Bengals really believe they're still in this thing. I think they could still go on a run. And meanwhile, the Steelers have kind of taken a step back. Division games on the road, they're not as great at. I like the Steelers. I mean, I like the Bengals in this game to win, and I think enough to cover.
I picked the Bengals to win straight up, and yet I feel it could be a bit of a fool's gold because last week the Steelers did slow down the Ravens, and their offense was dynamite. Bengals are basically all offense and not a lot of defense. Yeah. And the Steelers are basically a lot of defense and not a super ton of offense. So it's definitely a mix, but I feel like I'm with you. And so, again, this is a game I could certainly be wrong because of the way the Steelers played defensively, but I feel like that this offense, man, they're clicking, sadly, for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and local ties. Their defense just hasn't been playing well. But I'm going Bengals.
If there's a bad team, a quote unquote team with a bad, there's a team with a bad record right now that's going to make the playoffs, and usually we have one surprise. I know that it would be the Aunt Mabel special, the one that the public likes the most, but I just think that the Bengals have the best chance of teams with bad records right now to make the playoffs, and team that's going to make a run, I think it's Cincinnati. So we'll see if that's true or not. All right, that game's at noon on CBS. Also at noon on CBS. So no matter where you are, unless you have the Sunday ticket, you can't watch both of these at the same time. But luckily, I have the Sunday ticket. I'll have to have it on while I'm driving to the Superdome. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Falcons have played poorly as of late, but I don't understand this line at all. It makes no sense that the Chargers are favored in Atlanta. I think the Atlanta bounces back. I've said it all year long. The Chargers are overrated. They played a bunch of teams with no quarterback. And what happens when they play a team with a quarterback last week? They pretty much get stomped. I think they go to Atlanta next week. I don't think they can stop Atlanta. I think Atlanta gets back on track and wins this game by a touchdown or so.
I have taken the Chargers. I think
you would love the Chargers.
I think defensively, look, that's what's carrying them.
Where's that button again where I actually
give me the hook? And I just think that offensively, the Falcons have not played well recently. And what they haven't been able to do is it's a really geeky stat, but since they've been struggling a bit offensively, you've seen little to no separation by two of their best receivers, Drake London and Darnell Mooney. And so that's made life a lot more challenging. And look, the Chargers can stop the run. Falcons are probably going to try to run the football. So I think upset. Okay, which quarterback do you think is better in this game? Who would you rather, which one, Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins?
I think they're what and what. I mean, but look, I will say that with a caveat that I've been on the record saying that I think, and Gabe and I have disagreed about this often, but I think Justin Herbert's overrated. I really do.
I know you think Justin Herbert's overrated. That's why I kind of threw that up there on a team.
I think they're what and what. I really do. I don't.
All I know
think
is
they're very similar.
The Falcons' pass rush is terrible. So
that's
guess
true.
what? Justin Herbert can actually get back there and work some things. So that's part also why I took the Chargers.
Well, the Falcons are much better at home, although they did lose to the Seahawks. A little over a month ago, they lost to the Seahawks at home. Their last two games were both on the road. They stunk against the Saints. That was kind of an emotional game for the Saints with Rizzi. But other than Seahawks at home, they beat the Cowboys. They beat the Buccaneers. I mean, nobody great, but I don't think the Chargers are great. They lost to the Chiefs by 5. So they have been pretty good at home. At least better at home. So anyway, we'll see. I like the Falcons in this game. Larry likes the Los Angeles Chargers. All right. And then this game is intriguing for multiple ways. Okay. Sunday Night Football. Now, I've been looking over the course of the next 2 days. There could be up to 4 feet of snow in the Buffalo area. However, I'm going to say this. I think that this bad weather is going to clear out by Sunday night. This over-under, and again, I know you're not a huge betting guy, so this won't mean as much to you. But I think by the time the game starts, the winds aren't going to be bad. They're going to be about 10 miles an hour, which isn't too bad. I like a play on this over. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I think San Francisco will play better and keep it close. I just don't think they win the game. I think Buffalo wins the game, but San Francisco covers. I
would agree with that. But here's the thing: if the weather doesn't clear out, you might think, well, if the 49ers would ever be equipped to win a game like this, they would with having McCaffrey. But also the weather doesn't slow down what Buffalo can do. Josh Allen, obviously we know his multifaceted ways. Cook has been a perfect fit for them. It's almost like you don't want to Buffalo is one of the best teams in the NFL right now, but you don't want to buy it just because they've kind of let you down a ton.
Many times.
They've let you down all the time.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about Buffalo is, and by the way, if you guys are in the chat and you want to give your Saints prediction, now's the time to do it because we've got about 30 seconds left until we give our Saints prediction and we end this segment here with Larry this morning. And then I'm going to end the show with the Saints by myself here. But we're going to give our prediction in just a minute. So now's the time. Give me your Saints prediction and we'll show it here on the screen. But back to what you're talking about. The Bills always seem to go into a lull at some point in the season and just kind of stink up the joint, but they really haven't done that this year. I've really been impressed with the way that they've handled the season, and quietly, or as quietly as they can do, Larry, they've sort of shown that they can be a Super Bowl contender.
The last 4 weeks, Josh Allen hasn't played anywhere near like he did the first 8 weeks, and yet they win still. Like that to me is pretty telling. Like I feel like Josh Allen is having that and they're winning anyway. Like that's dangerous. Like that's almost like, all right, they're hanging around, they're still winning games. And it's almost a little different because I'll compare them to say like the Texans. Their record's still good. They're having a lull but losing games. Like they're not winning every week. Buffalo's still winning every week. And I think that's something that when you get to playoff time, maybe this is the time, because again, the Chiefs feel like they're susceptible. And part of that is I'm totally going off tangent, but the Chiefs defense is slipping up a little bit while Mahomes' numbers are getting better. The Chiefs defense is slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
Buffalo is maintaining and playing well within the lull. So I think that's something to watch, but yeah, I think that's, and this could be almost an eliminator for the 49ers. Like they could have this is easily looking like a lost year for that team.
Absolutely. And look, I think going forward, and I've said this before, I think this is going to be a weird year of teams you don't necessarily expect. I know Randall's saying Bills Lions Super Bowl. Everybody and their mama.
Could be Bills Eagles Super Bowl.
Everybody and their grandma, their mama, their dog, their cat's niece, their leopard. They could go to the zoo and find a cockroach walking on the ground. The cockroach would say the Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. If you're picking the Lions, I don't want to hear, okay? Because everybody's picking the Lions, okay? I think it's too easy, and Vegas doesn't make money for nothing. So it's going to be somebody weird this year. It's going to be not every year. I know the Chiefs have won the last 2 years in a row. It's going to be somebody weird. And I think that the Bills, they're not super weird. I know they're not way out there. They're probably third or fourth in the list of Super Bowl odds, but I think I think this wouldn't surprise me at all if they went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to play somebody in the NFC. You and I both picked the Packers. Why get away from them now? I think Green Bay's playing it as well as anybody.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of stuck to them, and I like your talk of, the Bengals can rise. Look, then it could be okay. We could both be right.
No, and look, I think that the Lions, you want to talk about Bears Baron? I think the Lions are going to lion because Dan Campbell always finds a way to screw up the Lions, and he's going to find a way to do it again. All right, time to move on. We're going to wrap up this segment. I thank you the day after Thanksgiving. I know you probably had to evacuate your house to do this show, whatever it is. Everybody's off today. Whatever it is, thank you for coming on the day after Thanksgiving. And we hope you have a wonderful weekend with the family. All right, Saints, Rams time. Larry Holder, give me your prediction. What is going to happen in the Superdome on Sunday at 3:00?
I think the Saints playoff predictor percentages increase.
Wow.
From 3%. I'm going to pick the Saints. I think they're going to run through, literally. I think they're going to run through the Rams. It's going to be hairy, but I think they're going to run through the Rams. Let's go 28-27 Saints.
Wow. So are they going to 28-27? So you're saying are they going to be trailing 27-21 and they're going to need that last touchdown? I think
that's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
I feel like they've got the Riz, man. They've got the
Riz. They keep their Rizmas plans. Larry Holder says they keep their Rizmas plans rolling. All right. Before I give my prediction, Gabe Henderson, show us some of the readers and the listener. I keep calling them readers because I'm a sports writer at heart. Adam Varner says Saints 34, Rams 31. Randall says, of course he does. 31-23 Rams. What else we got? Charles Mangus, Saints 28, Rams 21. We got Jerry's always ever hopeful. He's a big Riz fan. He's got Saints.
He thinks they're playing Cleveland again.
Saints 35-14. Wow. That would shock me if that happened. PBM says Saints win it 24-21. I know we had a couple more up there. Corey Terrio says Saints 30, Rams 24. Brian Cavett says Saints squeak out on a Rizzitude with the Rizzitude 34-31. Uncle Big Nick says Rams 30-27. I know there was one more up there. I think we missed. Walt Crawford says he's going to. I don't know. You haven't even heard me make my prediction. You're just assuming I'm going to predict against the Saints. And it's crow eating time. I haven't had to eat crow all that much. Although I think I said that the Saints would lose the Falcons. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I predicted. Anyway, I know I haven't been great predicting the Saints this year. Walt says Saints 27, Rams 20. And maybe I will have to eat crow because I think this is where the happy Rizziness comes to an end. And look, man, the Saints can't stop the Rams passing game. They just can't. I think the Rams are going to – I think Stafford might throw for 400 yards in this game. I really do. I do agree with you. I think Kamara is going to have a hell of a game. I did not just throw him up there as the front page of this thing, and I'll show it one more time. I did not put this up there because I'm trying to jinx Alvin Kamara because I'm playing against him in fantasy. I actually think he's going to have a hell of a game, and I think that I think Kamara goes for 150 total yards of offense and scores at least twice, maybe 3 times, but it's not going to be enough. I think this is a high-scoring shootout, fun kind of game that the Red Zone channel is going to spend half the day on. I say Rams 36, Saints 30. Sorry, Dattitude family. That's just what. And Walt, if I'm eating crow po' boy on Monday, you can just add it to the other things that I will have eaten before the end of the day. Sunday, I don't know. It sucks. Are you just being hopeful, or you really think that you think the Saints going to win?
Well, I picked them. I mean, that's public. So what am I going to do?
Exactly. You don't care in the grand scheme of things. All right. Well, you know what? I think you've probably been a little bit more right. I don't have our records here.
Probably
I should,
just a little,
just a little. I think I'm.
Just a little.
I think I am 5-6 picking the Saints this year, and they're 4-7. So I'm doing a little bit better than them. I would guess that you're like 6-5ish. Somewhere around there.
I could probably look through, well, I'm not going to do it right now, but I have my I can look back at all my picks. They're all saved on our
all right. Well, you can let me know what they are next week.
I shall. I will do that.
All right. We will see you next Friday as we preview Saints and Giants. And I'm sure the world can't wait for that game.
Oh, I'm fired up. Give me all of either DeVito or Drew Lock. Yes.
And then we can have maybe a quick LSU postmortem as well. All right. See you next week, Larry. Have a great weekend.
Buddy. You too.
Larry Holder, everybody. We certainly we appreciate him coming on. Charles Mangus says, I have my opinion. He respects it, but the Saints win. Hey, I hope you're right. Again, I don't know how many times. I hope y'all are right. I'm not trying to be Derry Downer. I hope I'm wrong. The one thing is, if I tell you I think the Saints going to win, I believe it. I'm not just saying it because I hope the Saints win. On the show, if you watched, I don't know, you probably only need to have watched 5 shows to know that I tell you the way that I think it is. I'm not. Some of you who just come in out of the blue and you hear me say things and, he's being negative. I've had this. You don't know how many times I've had this. How can you be a Saints fan and have a show where you do? Dude, I'm not doing this show as a Saints fan. Doing this show as a realist who tells you what I think. Okay? Some people, they don't like it and they don't stick around. I'm sorry. Postmortem on Tulane. Apathy says 3 letters. LOL. Hey. Gabe and I try to tell you. I mean, there are actually, and look, I think that, and I texted this to Gabe last night. If you still believe that Tulane could beat LSU, you are either living in la la land and are completely delusional, Or what? You need to feed what on Saturdays? That's right. The pigeons need food. You got a lot of crumbs left over, I'm sure, in the kitchen. Go find, I guarantee there's old bread in the kitchen. Okay? You can go feed the pigeons with all the food you got left over. There's got to be something they'll eat. And if you think Tulane's going to beat LSU or would beat LSU, then go feed the pigeons. All right, before we finish the show with a couple more thoughts on the Saints, we offered thanks earlier to our friends at Evangeline Securities, and now it's time to tell you how they can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, you know how they do it. They do it with a complimentary valuation of your company. If you decide to proceed after you get that, here's what your business is worth. You go through all the numbers. They go through all of them with you. You sit down and you have a chat with people who know what the heck they're talking about. If you decide to proceed, then native New Orleanians, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. They have offices on Poydras Street and in Lafayette. None of the companies in this state, that's just exaggerating. I'm not just throwing this out there. None of the companies in the state who try to do what Evangeline Securities do have their dedication or their success. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It's not Larry's prediction. It's not my prediction. It's not turkey. It's not stuffing. It's not free Saints tickets. No. What's really important is the rest of your life. And you can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. Charles says he has plenty of pigeons in his backyard. Well, go feed them. If you think Tulane can beat LSU, go feed them. You don't think that, though. Nathaniel Sherman says I'm right about Tulane. You'd rather see Tulane versus LSU than Southern versus we saw Southern against LSU last year. By the way, I know I didn't talk. Somebody asked me on Wednesday, did not talk enough about the Bayou Classic. I didn't talk at all really about it. We got the list of things. I told you what I think about the Bayou Classic. I am a band guy, and I know that I'm biased when I say this, but what I love most about the Bayou Classic is the battle of the bands. Grambling and Southern bands. As a member of LSU's band, I mean, I could tell you the Grambling and Southern might kick LSU's butt in band. I don't know. Maybe not today. I don't know. UBN says the people who think Tulane can beat LSU, the same people who think that the best CF college football team can beat the worst NFL team. Probably so. Probably so. Any of y'all going to the Bayou Classic? You know, in again, 3.5 decades in this business, there are multiple things. You would think that I've done everything or covered everything to this point in time. There are still things that I haven't done that I would like to do. I've never covered the Bayou Classic. I think that would have been fun. Never done it. I don't think I've ever been to a game that involved Grambling or Southern, now that I think about it. Now, in basketball, I've covered Southern basketball before. And I used to, in fact, when I first started, I covered Southern University of New Orleans, SUNO basketball on a regular basis. I covered the GCAC back in the day. But I've never covered the Bayou Classic. I've never been to a Super Bowl. Never even been to a Super Bowl. I'm hoping that changes this year. We'll see. We had been talking about getting on Media Row for the week before the Super Bowl, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We're still working on it. We'll see how Super Bowl week goes. That is going to be a crazy week for us here at Dattitude, where we kind of turn from a local show into a national show, just at least for that week. Right? I mean, let's be honest. I'm thinking we're going to talk a whole lot of Saints Super Bowl week. That's coming up before we even know about it. So interesting for sure. The Saints this week, again, look, I hope I'm wrong, but you look at these numbers. I mean, who's going to stop the Saints pass? I mean, the Rams passing game. Let's be real. I know we were talking in the chat, and I wasn't talking about it. Gabe was talking about it with Charles about whether Stafford and Carr. Come on, man. You know I take up for Derek Carr way more times than not. But Matthew Stafford is, like, even today, like still with at his age, Matthew Stafford's better than Derek Carr. I wonder how much time he's got left. What is he, like 38, 37, 38? Gotta be up there. I'll look it up. Matthew Stafford, I think he's still got a couple years left in the tank. He's still, to me, he probably doesn't move quite like he used to. Not that he was ever a real mobile quarterback. Matthew Stafford is 36. What's he got? 3 years left, maybe? I think 3. Are the Rams going to be a Super Bowl team again over the course of the next 3 years? Maybe. It ain't this year. I don't know if those guys wouldn't have got hurt. I think their defense is kind of on an incline. I think the defense is getting better. I see signs. Look, when you lose an Aaron Donald, you got a long way to go, right? I mean, that hurts. You lose an Aaron Donald, it's tough. So I do think that they will be back at some point. Nathaniel Sherman says, you saw Jackson State with Walter Payton? Wow. I would have loved to seen that. I got to meet, and I'm getting off topic here as we end the show. I can do whatever I want, right? I got to meet Walter Payton once. So after I left LSU, I went to UNO, and I was actually in UNO's band. Yes, UNO had a band. I don't know if they still do or not, but they did when I was going there. And so I was actually the sports editor there and in the band for a couple of years. And we did a halftime show, a Saints halftime show. Who were they playing? That might have it might have even been the night where Flipper went off. We were joking about the Flipper Anderson game. Might have been that night. I know it was a night game. And Walter Payton comes. We're about to get ready. It was before the game. We're on the field, and Walter Payton comes walking out. And I'm, I mean, when I'm not nearly, the late great Walter Payton, if someone of his ilk walked up today, I would probably still be in awe, even though I don't get in awe of almost anyone. Like, it would take someone like Michael Jordan or someone of that ilk for me to like, oh, look who it is. But back then as a kid, I was 21 or 22 years old. I'm like, oh my God, it's Walter Payton. I'm like, can I have your autograph? You got to, right? He was just standing there. Nicest guy in the world. He actually didn't just give me his autograph, but like, now I'm a kid, so he's like talking to me, hey kid, kind of thing. It was very cool. So died way too soon. And Nathaniel, I think you'll agree. I don't know that there's ever been one like that. We've had some great running backs, and Barry Sanders comes to mind, but a different kind of back. But just as a overall fantastic, do anything kind of running back, Walter Payton is up there. My top 5 for sure. Emmitt Smith is up there. Like that kind. Those two guys, like, just thinking back to my youth, those two guys are two of the best for sure. Anyway. All right. That is my thoughts on my wandering thoughts on this Black Friday. What are you guys doing this weekend? You're going to stay home and watch football? You're going to go out and shop? Does anybody go out and shop anymore? That's what Amazon's for, right? I don't know about you, but I do most of my shopping. I've always hated the mall. Like, even when I was a kid and friends were going to the mall, I wasn't a fan. So I'll be Amazoning it up. Although the wife and kids, I think they're already out of the house. I don't hear them. And trust me, if they were home, I'd probably hear them. So they're going to be out shopping. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. We will be back. We get back to a regular schedule next week. So we'll be here every weekday going forward. I don't think we have any more days off until Christmas week. I think Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. So obviously we won't have a show on a Wednesday. But I know the Saints playing on Monday coming up. We got a weird schedule but I think that's the week before Thanksgiving. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we are back on our regular schedule. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, live at 11 a.m. here. This Monday, it'll be Mono-y Monday. It'll just be you, Gabe, and me. And we'll talk about what we think. You'll either be saying, eat crow, Derry. You were wrong with your pick. Or I'll be right. And it's been a long, I don't even know if the Saints lost at law, as long as they didn't get bombed. It'd be interesting to see. I'm not rooting for this, but it'd be interesting to see how a show would go if the Saints lost. Because we haven't had one of those in a while. I think it would be sort of an upbeat kind of thing, unless they just screwed it up, right? Dennis Allen's gone. Again, unless they lost by like 20 and they were never in it, and then the negative Nellies would be all over the place. But other than that, might even be a positive show. Who knows? Anyway, I hope we win and I get to eat crow and y'all are right and whatever. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday. Again, wrap up the month of November, the final show of November. When we get back, it's down to business, boys and girls. When we come back, LSU, Oklahoma on Saturday. We will start having all kinds of bowl projections to talk about. We'll know when we come back Monday whether Tulane will be playing the American Athletic Conference Championship at Yulman Stadium or whether they'll have to go to the Northeast and play it at West Point or wherever they play. Is that where they play at West Point too, Gabe? Yeah, I think so. So we'll find that out. We'll know Monday. So we'll have plenty to talk about Monday. We need you to do it. We hope to see you then. Don't eat too much turkey. If you want to catch me tonight, you can catch me VSN. I will be doing high school quarterfinals. It'll be Archbishop Shaw. It'll be John F. Kennedy in the Division II Select quarterfinals. Jim Raper will be with me for that one. And otherwise, I'll be at the game on a Sunday, tweeting out whatever I see. Randall says, great show. We will see you next week. Absolutely, Jerry. Great stream. Thank you so much for being a part of the Dattitude family. And we will see you on Monday. I want to thank Gabe Henderson. I want to thank Larry Holder for being with us. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell. You'll always receive notifications when we go on the air live. You have access to all of our short takes. If you would rather just listen to the pod, you can do that wherever you get your podcast, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. You can find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. Catch our friends, the Saints Insiders, on NOLA.com/Saints. Everyone have a glorious, wonderful, cold weekend. Get the jackets out, boys and girls. You're going to need them if you haven't been outside, and we will see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.